In today's video, I will demonstrate how to subculture bacteria into different types of media. When performing these transfers, it is important to maintain sterile technique. This will ensure that you do not contaminate the lab media, the culture, or the environment. I will specifically show you how to make 3 different types of transfers. The first transfer will be from broth into a sterile agar slant. The second transfer will be from a bacteria growing on an agar slant into sterile broth. And then the third transfer will be bacteria growing on an agar plate into sterile broth. Before you begin working in the lab, it is important that you wash your hands before putting on your gloves. Once you have on your gloves, sterilize your work environment with either a 10% bleach solution or 70% ethanol solution. Spray down the entire area that you will be working on. Again, your label should be on tape because we reuse these glass vials. Label with your name, date, media type, and bacteria. Before beginning, turn on your Bunsen burner. When the valve is facing up and down this way, the gas is closed. So it's closed like this, and it is closed like this. Whenever the valve is facing at this direction, it is open. When you open the valve, you should hear gas escaping. You will use your striker to press down If you need to release more gas, you can use this bottom knob, turn it right and left. You'll always want to work near the Bunsen burner because the flame creates a convection current causing the air to rise. This reduces the amount of microbes that are likely to fall into your media and culture. When sterilizing your inoculation loop, begin from the base to the tip and gradually move it through the flame, making sure that each part of the loop turns red hot. It is important to move slowly, moving from the base to the tip, because most bacteria will be on the tip of the inoculating loop. This slow motion, starting at the base, moving to the tip, will reduce the amount of bacteria rupturing quickly when heated too quickly, causing bacteria-containing aerosols being released into the air. Start by sterilizing your inoculating loop. Again, you will move slowly through the flame, starting from the base to the tip, making sure that each part of the loop turns red hot. Before inserting your inoculating loop into your culture broth, you'll have to make sure that it cools down. If you insert the loop when it is too hot, then it could cause the broth to boil briefly, again releasing bacteria-containing aerosols into the air. Now that your loop is sterile, make sure to hold it still. Do not wave it in the air as you do not want to recontaminate your loop. You'll begin, again, by transferring bacteria in a broth into a sterile agar slant. Grab your bacteria growing in the broth. To make sure that it is evenly distributed throughout the broth and not just clumped on the bottom of the broth, you'll want to drum your fingers up and down the length of the tube. This should evenly distribute the bacteria throughout the tube. Again, do not hold the vial by the cap and do not tip these over, as these caps are loose-fitting. You will now open the cap of the broth. To do so, hold the loop in your hand like a pencil, hold the broth in your non-dominant hand, and then open the tube using your pinky finger. This is very important because once you open the tube, you'll want to hold the cap facing down at all times. This will reduce the amount of dust and bacteria falling into the cap. You'll also want to hold your broth at an angle. This also reduces the amount of dust and bacteria that can fall into your broth. So again, I'm holding my loop like a pencil in my dominant hand. I'm holding the broth in my non-dominant hand, and I'm grabbing the cap with my pinky finger and opening it. Once it is open, again, always hold the cap face down and always hold the broth at an angle. Quickly pass the opening of the broth through the flame 2 to 3 times. This creates a convection current that forces any bacteria at the opening out. It will also kill any bacteria that was at the opening of the tube. Slowly insert your loop. Again, this has to be cooled. So if this process took less than 15 seconds, please wait. And whoops. Slowly insert the loop into the broth. Slowly remove the loop, reflame the opening, and replace the cap. Your loop now contains bacteria. Make sure that you do not wave it around, as you do not want to contaminate the lab environment. You will now open your sterile agar slant. To do so, again, hold the loop in your dominant hand like a pencil and open the cap using your pinky finger. Make sure that the cap is always face down and that the agar slant is always at an angle. You will then pass the opening of the tube through the flame 2 to 3 times. When inoculating an agar slant, you will want to move your loop up in a fishtail wave-like motion up the slant. This will make it so that the bacteria is easily visible within the slant. When doing so, make sure you do not press too hard into the agar as to penetrate the agar. You will only be moving right above the agar surface, again in a fishtail motion. So place your loop into the slant, to the very bottom of the slant, and move in that fishtail motion up and down the agar slant, just gently touching the top of the agar. Once out, move the opening of the tube through the flame 2 to 3 times, close the tube, and place it back into the tube rack. Re-sterilize your inoculating loop. Again, moving from the base to the tip slowly, making sure that each part of the loop turns red hot. You're now done with your first transfer.